Hello YouTube, Devin here again, and today I have a pretty special helmet for you today. It resembles pretty much a German Stahlhelm from World War II, but I assure you it is a whole lot shittier than that. This is technically an M42 Stahlhelm, but this is a Spanish one, and it's known as the Modelo Z 42. So, and this is actually the updated version. So this is the Modelo Z 42-79. Spain has this weird thing where they don't, patents and copyrights and everything are very, very, very hard to enforce in Spain until they became a part of the European Union, which didn't happen until way after this period. And so even in World War I, you see a lot of like firearms, and you see a lot of military technology and a lot of other things just being blatantly copied, most of the time very crudely and shittily, in Spain. This is no exception to that. Spain pretty much made copies of the German M42 Stahlhelm after the war, to replace their conglomeration of helmets they had from like Italy and France and Sweden and Germany and England. And they had a whole big mix of helmets that they could buy from pretty much anybody during their Civil War, which was in the late 30s. This became their standard helmet until they replaced it with a composite version. It looks on the outside pretty much like a 42 Stahlhelm, but with the exception of some extra rivets and the insignia bracket on the front. But if you look really closely, everything's a little off. Like, for some reason, this corner here is bowed out a little more, and it comes a lot more forward than this one. The bill is lopsided and kind of ovular shaped. The skirt is kind of bent at different angles throughout the helmet. All the rivets aren't lined up normal. See how that one's off center? It's just a very, very crappily done version of a German Stahlhelm. So, and that kind of reflects the, at the time, industry standard of Spain, which has always been pretty low since the fall of the Spanish Empire in the early 1900s. It's been Spain's industrial capabilities have been pretty subpar to the rest of the world. Everything you see on this helmet that isn't this shell on the outside is brass. These are all brass rivets. The air vents are brass. This one is loose, as you can see. But you could hear that tapping there is because Spanish manufacturing was pretty horrible at the time. So surprisingly, this helmet's liner is really cheap, but surprisingly comfortable. I'll show you an example of the earlier liner as well. I have that in a different helmet, but it's it was pretty much the same in this helmet in the earlier version. But this is the later version, and the later version liner looks like this. It's got a combination of like leather and canvas, and has this big, thick, like 3-inch wide leather band that's held in place with the rivets around the shell, and has all these different cuts and everything in it that route this leather-covered canvas band all the way around, and that's how you adjust the circumference. Is right here. There's a little slider buckle that you use to control the circumference of the helmet, and the crown is held in place by these little arms, which are just leather-covered canvas pieces, and they're all riveted in place with brass rivets, and it's tied at the top with a cotton drawstring. The chin cup doesn't really angle. Well, one of the A-yokes angles back, and the other one angles forward. The buckles on it are very cheap and flimsy, kind of pot metal almost. It's kind of an abrasive cotton material. Surprisingly, there's no rust in this helmet. This one was probably updated and never used. It looks in really, really good condition. But overall, as you can see there, up at the top, the skirt height difference, I'm holding it right in the center of the back. How that left side there is higher than the right side. The bill is a little egg-shaped and off-center. It's just how it works. It's how it happened, and it worked for them. They used it for a lot of years. They wouldn't if it wasn't effective. But I mean, it's not exactly pretty, but it worked. So that's kind of the Spanish logic to their military technology. So they copied the Germans on this one. Not great, but it's still a collector's piece. These are actually pretty decently hard to find on the market in good condition. This one is in exceptional condition. Normally you find them all just beat up or the liner has fallen out because these helmets were made so shittily that they fall apart. So to find one in this nice condition is actually really, really surprising. And again, this is the 42-79, the Modelo Z. Now, the early Modelo Z would have had a liner a lot like this, kind of the pseudo six-tongued, three-padded style liner that you would find, and it would have a black single-strand chin strap instead of that canvas a yoke style. So in 1979, they got rid of this liner and updated it to that liner. So we'll take a comparison. By the way, this is in a Swedish M26 helmet. If you're wondering what that one is, that has its own video. So so here we'll take a look. I'll turn this one so they're both facing the same way. So that would have been the difference there in the liners. So Spain used it for a long time. It stayed in use. The Modelo Z42 stayed in use from the 40s until the 2000s, pretty much, in some way or another, which is kind of scary because of how crappy it is. I got this helmet today and pounded a dent out of it when I got home because the steel on them is so subpar. I had to pound a dent out of it. You can see the remnants where the paint chipped off from where the dent initially impacted. You can see that kind of ring of bare metal. The best way to tell these at a glance from a regular Stahlhelm, because a lot of people try to pass these off as actual German Stahlhelms, even though they're a much cheaper copy. So other than this little, all Spanish helmets have these, up until the Kevlar ones have these little brackets on the front for the brass insignia. It would have been like an eagle with a red cross on the front of it, like a red Christian cross on the front of it. But other than that, the best way to tell this from a German M42 Stahlhelm and this one, the Modelo Z, is the brass rivets. And just the overall shoddy quality. Like these, as you can see, the paint on this one, despite pretty much being unused, looks awful because they just kept throwing on layer after layer after layer of cheap paint, just literally globbing it on there. You could see run marks, you could see bare spots. It's just horrible overall what the quality of the workmanship on this helmet, but it worked. So I mean, Spain got off with a pretty decent design. And with their patent infringements and stuff like that, and after World War II, everybody wanting to denazify, they happily took this design because they didn't give a shit, and they didn't have any money, and they didn't have anything else, and they have poor materials. So this was a very, very easy way to get a relatively good design of helmet for their military, and that they could make in large numbers. So despite being shitty, it worked, and it's still a piece of history, and I'm really glad I got one in this nice of condition. And hopefully you guys like this video, and I know there was a couple requests a long time ago on some of my videos to see some Spanish helmets. I haven't got one to today. I'm still trying to get a Model 26, but those are a lot harder to find. So I'll leave this video here. Hopefully you guys liked it. If you're new, hopefully you subscribed so you can so I can keep making these videos and stuff like that. I want to thank all the new subscribers. We just hit 50 today, actually. So I'm very, very thankful for that. The channel's actually really grown at quite an alarming rate, and it's entirely exceeded my expectations. And it's all thanks to you guys, because again, I'm just doing this to get information out there, whether anybody watches it or not. So I really appreciate it. Please leave a comment if you want to suggest topics for any future videos, if you need help sizing anything or trying to find anything, or if you have any questions at all about anything on the channel, feel free to ask me. Or if something that's not on the channel but it's related to the channel, still feel free to ask me, and I'll do my best to see what I can do for you. So I will leave this video here and hopefully see you in the next one. Bye.